Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in across Canada, the US, and beyond for another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast with us here. If you're new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. We just put out our newest newsletter yesterday. It's insane. We've got like 7 campaigns on the go and 40 programs in the next 3 weeks alone. So please do join us as we continue to showcase and celebrate the coolest scientists, explorers, and amazing people and places around the globe. Thank you all so much for being here. Now, today I'm really excited because I get to dive back in with one of my favorite people, Daphne from OceanWise, one of my favorite organizations, OceanWise, and one of my favorite topics, which is spring babies. For any of you, wherever you are across North America and beyond, there are things blooming, there are things growing, there are baby birds chirping. It's a very, very exciting time. But of course, we are going to take the ocean angle today and learn about some of our coolest friends getting up and growing up in the oceans of this planet. I'm going to turn it over to Daphne to blow your mind over the next 20 minutes. Get ready for a really interactive presentation today. And without further ado, Daphne, nice to see you again. Welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me again, Jesse. I'm super excited to join everyone today. Again, my name's Daphne. I'm actually joining you from where OceanWise is headquartered, which is in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So you can see where I am today. But because I'm joining from what is known as Vancouver today, it actually means that I'm on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Peoples. And I'm really grateful that I'm able to live, work, play, and connect with you all from their lands. But as we go through this program and as we go through life, I really want us to think about ways we can better respect each other, all the life on the planet, as well as the land, water, and sky around us, as people have since time immemorial on these lands. So, if you are not familiar with OceanWise, really quick, OceanWise, we see some challenges that the ocean is facing. 3 of the ones that we are trying to help find solutions for are ocean pollution, climate change, and overfishing. And you can see we have a couple different programs and projects that are trying to help find solutions to help have a healthier ocean. So that could be things like looking at the health of whales and how we can keep them healthy and booming, how we can reduce our use of plastics, how we can eat more sustainably from the sea, even how we can educate each other, and maybe even grow some kelp. So there's lots that we are learning about the ocean and that we hope to share with all of you, because our mission is to empower communities and individuals to take action to protect and restore our world's ocean. And with that, I want to take us away from the ocean for a minute and get us warmed up with a question, because it is springtime. I'm sure many of us had a long weekend recently. But this time of year, as Jesse said, has lots of sounds and sights of little babies all around. So I'd love to hear maybe in the chat, and maybe we can get 1 or 2 suggestions from classes. What kind of baby animals have you heard or seen lately?
Ooh, Miss Smith's class, Stony Plain Central. Any baby animals that have been on the radar lately?
What do you think?
I saw a baby.
See it nice and loud.
I saw a little bunny.
A bunny? That's so cool. I love bunny. Right around Easter, too. That's very, very fitting. Miss Teeson's class, if you guys want to unmute, any baby animals that we've heard lately out there in BC? Nice hands up. Everyone's being really respectful today.
Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead. Go up to the camera.
I heard a baby bird.
Baby birds. We've got bunnies. Daphne, these are some great answers.
I love it. There's lots of animals we might hear. Birds might be one that we hear the most of, but we might also start seeing some other little babies really soon. Maybe some little baby squirrels, some little baby ducks, maybe baby raccoons. I see quite a few of those around Vancouver. But there's lots of different animals that we might see. Now, you might be familiar with some of these that I have right here, maybe lots that are on land, but we also are going to see lots of babies in the ocean. And I have just a few right here. So maybe you can quickly whisper to someone next to you what animals you're seeing.
Turtle, seal, dolphin.
I love it. Yes, we're seeing some pretty amazing ocean animals here, but they might look very similar to their adult form or their parents. You can see this sea otter right over here. I'm just going to pause these for a second. You can see our sea otter mother with her baby on her belly. They look quite similar, but that's not always going to be the case, and we'll dive into that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to share a very special baby with you. It's one that I think is one of the cutest in the ocean. It is a little baby sailfin sculpin. So if you've ever explored tide pools, you may see little sculpins scurrying around. This is one of their cousins, but it needs your help. It has lost its mother and it is looking for her. So our first activity of the day is, can you find the mother sailfin sculpin? Now, many fish are going to look similar as a baby to their adult similar.
Should I head to a class, Daphne, and see if they can see the mom in this?
Go for it. Let's choose one class.
All right, Mr. Marker's class. What do you guys think? Where's mom? Jace?
There's a little blue thing flying around near the rocks.
A blue thing near the rocks might be the sculpin mother. Okay, I like that thought. Yeah. What do we think? We're kind of confused, Daphne. We're not sure. Maybe mom's at the bottom somewhere. That's what I would think.
Maybe. Well, you know what? There's lots of sea anemones, sea stars. We also have a few fish. We have a painted greenling over here and actually a rockfish down here. But we see someone that has some funky fins right in the middle here. That, my friends, is going to be our sailfin sculpin mother. And you can see she has a big belly full of lots of eggs, siblings for our sailfin sculpin friend. But this sailfin sculpin would have started its life as an egg. Many, many animals start their lives as eggs, and different parents in the ocean are going to have different ways of giving their babies the best chance of growing up. Some of them, like these cute wolf eel parents, might guard and protect and hug their eggs as much as they can until they're ready to hatch and survive on their own. But many others, like a sea star right here, might lay their eggs or release them and say, good luck, it's up to you now. Can you find any eggs in this picture?
Ooh. Miss Tisha's class, you guys are in. If you want to unmute your mic, all our classes can keep their mics unmuted during this whole stage, I promise. Where do we see eggs? Do we see any eggs in this? 5, 6s? What do we think? Take your time. Hi.
Right, Tristan?
Yeah.
The orange ball squirting down? Yeah, I think that might be right. Daphne, what do we think?
You are correct. We're seeing lots of little orange-ish eggs coming out of this sea star. And depending on the species, they're going to be small or big. Some might even have some grow inside of them. There's some interesting ways to survive as a sea star. But you know what? Sea stars and many other animals in the ocean might actually not look the same once they hatch out of their egg. So there's lots of animals that don't have a spine or a backbone in the ocean. Maybe we know what that word is. I'll just have us guess silently in our classes. We call these animals invertebrates. And these animals are going to go through a process that another animal we might be familiar with goes through. You might be a bit more familiar with someone like the butterfly, who starts off as an egg, and it's going to change into something that looks totally different, a caterpillar. And it's not until it goes through a whole nother change that it starts to look like that adult butterfly. And we call this metamorphosis. So that's going to be where we see these big changes in what these animals look like throughout their life cycle. And many animals are going to have this happen to them. So I have a challenge for you. Real quick, I have a question before we get into our matching, and that is, do you know what you looked like as a baby? Anyone have an idea? Maybe you can imagine a baby picture. Probably pretty small. Yeah, Jesse. But you know what? You probably looked fairly similar. I have some baby pictures of some ocean animals, and I need your help to identify whose picture is whose. So we have 1, 2, 3 baby pictures on the top.
Yep.
And we have 3 animals on the bottom. Can we figure out which animal's baby picture is whose?
All right. Miss Hewitt's class, I'll say, if you guys want to type in the private chat, I'd love to have you take part. I know your audio is being a little finicky today, so you can try that. Miss Crow's class, if you guys want to unmute, I'll be able to come to you guys. Everyone can unmute, I promise. No harm, no foul. While you're doing that, I'll note too, Daphne, I looked very different as a baby. I was saying not that I was small, but that my body grew into my head. I looked like Stewie from Family Guy as a baby. My head was like 2 other babies' heads put together. It's terrifying pictures.
You know what? Yeah, we are going to look a little bit different, aren't we? We're probably going to be a little bit chubby with lots of rolls as a healthy baby.
So Daphne, our Miss Hewitt's class, they're on the ball. They got 1 and C is their thought. 2 and they switched to 2 and B. Okay, so if 1 and C and 2 and B, so 3 and A, I guess, is our thing from them. Does Stony Plain Central? Do you guys think any different? What do we think?
Do you think any different?
Yeah,
Which one did you guys think?
How high do dolphins jump?
Oh, we'll get to your questions in a little bit, man. I promise. Right now, we're trying to match some babies to some adults. Mr. Markrae's class, what do we think?
Riley? A is
A
number
and 2. Yeah.
One and C.
1 and C, so 3 and B. Okay, so you got some. We're mixing it up here, Daphne. This is very exciting. Can you help us out a little bit?
I can. Well, we might have a little bit of help in that we might recognize that we have a baby sailfin sculpin here. So now we can get a different look at what that adult or that mother might look like. We have an adult sailfin sculpin hiding in the sand here. But that leaves us with both the jellyfish and the sea star. Now, sea stars have lots of arms, so we might think that number 2 would be the right one. But you know what? As I said, these babies might not look the same when they're a baby versus an adult. So actually, number 2 goes with the jellyfish, B. So number 3, that looks kind of like a spaceship or an alien, I think, is actually what a baby sea star is going to look like. They are doing a little bit of trickery for us, I would say, my friends. But I think it's kind of fun to take a look at some of these baby pictures. And I have 2 more to challenge you. They're a little bit more difficult. Let's see what you can get. I have another one here. So we've got a baby picture. Who am I? Am I a coral? Am I an anemone? Am I a sponge? Or am I an octopus? What do we think?
I kind of hope that kids think they're an anemone, just so I can hear a bunch of children say anemone. But I'm going to go to Miss Teason's class. Suri, if you guys have a thought, unmute your mic. Come on in. And what do we think, Division 11?
There you go. Go ahead.
I think it's a D, the octopus.
You're an octopus, okay. Miss Crow's class, if you guys want to unmute, what do you think? Let's see. I've got you're good to go if your mic's unmuted. While we're waiting too, Stony Plain Central, what do you think?
Off. Ready? Everybody.
Octopus! Okay, we're very firm on D.
And you know what? You are all correct. That was a teeny tiny baby octopus. And we have a giant Pacific octopus here. They're the largest octopus in the world. But as a baby, they start out about the size of a grain of rice. So they're super teeny tiny. And as an adult, they can get up to about, some people say like 8 meters, some say up to maybe 10 meters from the tip of one arm to the tip of another. So these are giant animals as an adult. And they grow that big in just about 3 to 5 years. I think that's pretty impressive. All right, but we have, oh, Jesse, did you have a comment about the octopus?
No, I'm excited. I'm getting pumped up for this next thing. What is it? I don't know.
All right, well, it's another tricky one. So who am I? Am I a crab, an eel, a shrimp, or a fish? What do we think?
Miss Tisha's class, if you guys want to unmute, what do we think?
Jai? Crab?
Okay. Very firm on the crab. Mr. Margaret's class, you got a student right at the camera. What do we think?
Crab.
Crab. We got double crab. Hewitt's class thinks shrimp. So we've got like something in the crustacean family. Eel and fish have been ruled out, Daphne. What do we think?
Well, you know what? It is definitely a crustacean. And in this case, it's going to look very similar to both a crab and a shrimp, but it is, in fact, a crab.
Nice.
So it's going to go through a couple different stages where it's going to metamorphosize into a different look and then eventually become that crab. But as a parent in the ocean, if you are raising all these babies, you need to find ways to keep them safe. Now, I want to see if you have any ideas. If you were an animal in the ocean, how would you try to keep your babies safe?
All right. Hewitt's class, again, you guys can type in the chat. We'd love to hear from you there. YouTubers, feel free to chime in. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but I know our folks in Miss Hood's class have been doing amazingly and sharing some answers in the chat. Let's see. Mr. Marker's class, you got a student right at the camera. How would you protect your baby? If you lived in the ocean?
Terrence, what did you say?
I would just let it do its own thing, but if it's bad, I would let them not do it.
Let that baby go. Hope for the best.
I'm sure there are lots of parents that would love to be able to do that too.
Absolutely.
And many animals in the ocean, in lakes, rivers, are going to do this. Even many animals like turtles are going to lay their eggs on land and then hope for the best. So
Good
it
answer.
seems like an easy way to go to me.
It does. Stony Plain Central, do you guys have a thought?
I would protect my baby and like guard it.
Guard it.
Maybe guard it like those wolf eels were guarding their eggs.
Yep.
Definitely.
And then I've got two from YouTube, Daphne. We've got Hide the Baby from our homeschool Mr. Arishnikov's class. And Miss Straighton's class wanted to know, put the babies on an island. You just sequester them in Hawaii. And they get to like live out their lives in this tropical beach. And it's so nice. And they get all these great drinks. And it's a good time. Yeah.
I love it. We have some great ideas here. And I do see another comment in the chat that I will mention in a moment. But I did want to say that, yeah, one of the ways that we can actually, or animals can hide their babies is actually in nurseries. So you might think of coral reefs as kind of being this area where you can hide and raise your babies. Also other areas like kelp forests and even eelgrass or seagrass like we're seeing here are great places to hide and raise your babies. It's going to be a place to hide. There's going to be food and probably less predators around as well. And if we take a closer look, we might even see one of my favorite ocean animals. One of the silliest, cutest looking fish, I think. And that is the Pacific spiny lumpsucker. But you can see we have an adult and its baby right there. But can you find the baby Pacific spiny lumpsucker? It's got some pretty good camouflage hiding in all of that seagrass.
I don't know. Oh, Mr. Evans, we got like an arm up at the camera. Where is it?
Ashlyn?
Right on top of the rock.
Right on the rock. Easy.
Nicely found. Yeah, and these are a fish, like many other species in the ocean, that can change their color or come in different colors to hide depending on what's around them as well. So we'll see lots of them in kind of greens and kind of tealy colors as well, depending on what's around them. But I have a few trivia questions for you. So we have some interesting ways that parents are going to raise their babies in the ocean. So I've got a few to test you on. So these are true or false questions. The first one is, seahorse dads raise the eggs to babies. Is it the dad that's taking care of those eggs and then giving birth to them?
Miss Tisha's class, we'll come to you guys first. What do we think? True or false? 5 6s. Yell it out.
I think it's true.
True. We're pretty equivocal. True. Daphne, what do we think?
I think this one is true. Yes, we are going to see the females actually give the eggs to the male, and he's going to actually raise them up until they are hatched and ready to survive on their own. So sometimes it's the dads really coming in to help out those mothers in the ocean. All right, but one of the cutest animals in the ocean, I think a lot of us might think this, those fuzzy sea otters. Do sea otter moms wrap their babies in a blanket for naps? What do you think?
I'm going to wait for Miss Hewitt's class to chime in the chat. And while she's doing that, I will note sea otters are way bigger than people expect them to be. They're like the size of like a black lab. They can be like 70 pounds, like 4 feet long. They're a big animal. A lot of people assume they're like a tiny little thing like this. Not true. Substantial creature. Miss Hewitt's class. So Mr. Arishenkov's class says true for this. Miss Hewitt's class is true. We got a double true. Babies and naps. Nice.
Oh, well, you know what? This one, you might think of a blanket being nice to tuck you in for a nap, but sea otters are actually going to have fur on their body to keep them warm already. And actually, a baby sea otter is so fluffy with its baby fur that fur traps so many air bubbles, it acts like a life jacket, and they're going to have to lose their baby fur before they can even learn to swim. So they are super warm and cozy, and their parents are always grooming them to keep them nice and dry. But there is something that those parents are going to do while they nap, and that is their parents are going to wrap them in kelp. So I have my little baby sea otter with me here today. It's pretty fluffy, just like the real thing might be. But, you know, I don't want to get near wild animals. So I've got some kelp. And what this mom is going to do is wrap the kelp around her baby, or maybe the dad, to help keep it nice and tight along the top of the water, kind of like a seat belt, to make sure that that baby isn't going to float away while they're getting some food for it. So I think that's pretty smart, using something that's nearby to help keep your baby safe. All right, but you know what? I have one more video I had to share, because sometimes it's not just kelp that they'll wrap themselves in. Sometimes they will even hold hands while they sleep to stay nearby and not float away from each other. All right, I believe I have one more question here. Oh, maybe two, actually. This one has to do with a comment in the chat, though. Someone was wondering if maybe alligators put their babies in their mouth. So I have a question here. Some animals keep their babies in their mouth. Is this true or false?
False. Any thoughts? Let's see. Miss Teason's class. It's been a while. Come on back in. Unmute. True or false, folks?
True.
True. Everyone's like, true. Stony Plain Central. What do you guys think?
True.
Unequivocal true, Daphne. Thank you.
And you are correct. Alligators will sometimes keep their babies in their mouth, but it's also other animals as well. If we take a closer look here, you might see a couple eyeballs poking out of this mother fish's mouth. So many fish and other animals will do this too. I think it's kind of a funny spot to hang out, but it works for many animals. All right, last one, everyone. Some parents might say, you know what? I'm not ready for making babies with someone else. I'm going to make babies myself. Can some parents create copies of themselves? What do we think?
Clone off and Okay, let's bring up the question for everyone. Mr. M's class, what do we think? True or false?
Jen, what do you think?
I think it's false.
False. Okay. Hewitt's class, you guys want to chime in the chat? We got false from everybody. Everyone's like false. There's no way. I think
This is true. So there are animals that will actually do something called asexual reproduction, where instead of having two people or two individuals that make babies together, they're actually going to make them themselves. And they are copies of themselves. So they're cloning themselves. And you can see we have some sea anemones here that are actually creating copies of themselves that are going to slowly crawl off and grow into their own adult, an exact copy of their parent. I think that's pretty wild, my friends. But you know what? There's so much that we can learn from the ocean. I have one last question for you, though. Now that we've learned about all this, do you have a way that you would want to protect your baby if you lived in the ocean? Has your idea changed? I'll give us 10 seconds to share to someone next to us, and maybe we can get one suggestion, Jesse.
I have no one next to me. I'm all alone here, so I have to hang out.
I'm here, Jesse. I'm here.
I like putting babies on the island. That sounds really great. And joining them, maybe. They can be at a different part of the island. I can hang out. It's very relaxing. Let's see. The teacher's class. You guys have a student right at the camera. Unmute your mic. Come on in. 5 6s. Hey.
Well, if I had a baby, you know, I'd like always be like with them and like always protect them, you know, keep them in my mouth, you know, like one of my mom, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That was there you go. Always hanging out with baby. In the mouth, out of the mouth, whatever. You're just around
Yeah.
at all times. Sounds pretty
Keep them
good.
close, kind of like humans, right? Make sure they're going to be surviving. All right. Well, you know what? No matter how you're raising your babies or what babies we're seeing in the ocean or around the planet, there is something that can harm from the smallest babies even to the largest babies we might see in the ocean. So we might discover what that is from our friendly whales here. They're a bit hungry. And if we take a closer look, we see 2 different options to eat. Let us know, is the food the top or the bottom image? What do you think our baby whale should eat?
Stony Plain Central. What do you think?
What do you think?
the bottom.
Bottom. Yes, the top looks colorful, looks pretty, but I don't know if it's the right food for a whale.
You are correct. We're seeing lots of plankton there, a whole bunch of zooplankton, and that's going to be food for many animals in the ocean. Unfortunately, the top is a whole bunch of little tiny pieces of plastic, and if garbage, especially plastic, gets to the ocean, it can break into smaller and smaller pieces and start to look more and more like food for these animals. But that means there are some easy ways that we can make a difference. If we actually take a minute to think, there are ways that we can help keep plastic and garbage from getting into the ocean. So what might some of those ideas be? Well, I don't know. Maybe we have some ideas, Jesse?
Ooh, absolutely. We've got all the kids at the cameras. Mr. M's class, what do we think? Keeping plastic out of the ocean, what can we do?
We could recycle.
Yep, we can recycle. What a cool system, Daphne. I love it. Miss Hewitt's class. Oh, you got your camera on. Hewitt, 5 6. Hi.
Wait, hi, can you hear us?
Hey, yes, nice. Welcome in, everybody. I'm excited too. Is there something we can do to keep plastic in the ocean?
Is there something we can do to keep plastic out of the ocean? What? Reuse, recycle, reuse.
Yep. Nice. Reduce, reuse. We got all our 3 R's. Very good. Miss Tisha's class, your guys' camera's off now, but I can come back to you in a sec. Miss Teason's class, Suri, what do we think? Anything else? Anything? Anything? Come on. No? Anybody?
Hold on, we got one coming.
Oh, got one coming. Hey.
Yep, here we go.
We could start a program of picking up trash.
Yes, clean up trash wherever we are. Way to go. And Stony Plain Central, I'll come to you guys.
To put signs up, no littering.
Like, killing it, guys. Everyone's got these great answers. I love it.
These are great.
Good answers. Is there anything else that jumps out before we wrap up?
I think those are some great ideas, and I would say there are so many ways that we can make a difference, and some of those might be things like picking up plastic, doing a shoreline cleanup, even together we can find items on beaches or in our neighborhoods even that shouldn't be there. And with the help of friends, we can help pick that up safely with a picker, with gloves, and with an adult nearby. But I'd like to say thank you all so much for coming on this journey of babies of the spring with me. And I'd love to answer some of your questions.
Nice. And before we wrap up, Daphne, I will note if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this will be on YouTube later, of course. You can get this URL, take the quiz, what ocean animal are you? A fun little game you can play with our Ocean Wise friends. But what we'll do now is dive in with our questions. There's a bunch of really active YouTube classes, which is spectacular. I encourage all our audience to check out ocean.org. So much to discover at the Ocean Wise website. They are the leading ocean education organization on planet Earth. Some really great stuff to explore when you're done. Now, I'm going to head to Miss Teason's class first. Suri, if you guys want to kick us off with a question, anything about animal babies today for Daphne, you can just unmute your mic and you're good to go. Hey, guys, come on in.
There you go.
Well, if you want to leave the room, then you have to ask the teacher.
Okay, go ahead. Ask.
Why do some animals keep their babies in their mouths?
Now, what's the deal with the mouth thing, Daphne?
This is a great question. So some of it is that in some animals, it's just a big part of the body that you can hide your babies in. So if you're worried about their safety and there's predators nearby, that's a good spot for them to hang out. It's also probably kind of warm and cozy. So a good spot for them to kind of hide and stay safe when there's someone scary around.
Very, very cool. We've got a question. We're going to trip you up to begin with. And there's a name for maybe this group of creatures, but Mr. Erishenkoff's class, Family Home, Family School at Home, wants to know what is the smallest animal in the ocean? No pressure.
It depends on what you consider an animal, I would say. It would be some part of the plankton, but plankton in general, there are lots of animals that are part of the plankton, but even like bacteria and viruses are in the ocean, just as they are everywhere around us. And so those would be some of the smallest living things, if you consider that.
Very cool. I like that very much. Stony Plain Central, Miss Smith's class, come on in. Hey, guys. Hi.
How many animals breathe air or water in the ocean?
Oh, no pressure.
That's a great question. I don't know the number, but I would say there's a lot more animals that are getting oxygen from the water around them, from gills or their skin or something else, than there are animals that are breathing air. Because it's really going to be, say the reptiles and the mammals and some of those animals that are going to breathe the air. We just don't see as many of those in the ocean as we do, say, fish and sharks and lots of invertebrates.
Yeah. One cool thing, too, because a lot of people mix up whales and they mix up whales with fish. If you look at the tail, fish have tails that do this. Whales and mammals have tails that do this. You can always tell the difference from that. Very, very easy way to tell them apart.
And I'll tell you another thing.
Please.
I put this picture behind me on purpose because there's something on the whale right here. That is a belly button. So a good reminder that those whales are mammals just like us. They're breathing air just like us. They even have a belly button.
Belly buttons. That's the key to all wildlife. I love it. Mr. M's class, come on in and submarine. Take us away. Hey, guys.
Go ahead, Tova.
Do you think any of the parents that hold their babies in their mouth have ever accidentally eaten one of their babies?
Yes.
That's a great question. I would hope not. But you know what? I think they're pretty aware of when they have their babies in their mouth versus when they're going to go get some food. So they'll have another safe spot to put their babies while they need to eat. But Jesse, I believe the term you were getting to for all those animals that keep their babies in their mouth, is that mouth brooders? Is that what you were going for? Or do you have a different name?
I actually, no, it's funny. Whatever you're picking up that I was about to do wasn't, but that is true. So there you go. I don't even know what I was saying that led you to that. But mouth brooders, yes. We see it in frogs. We see it in a lot of fish. No mammals, to my knowledge, do that. And birds wouldn't either. So yeah, a lot of the invertebrate animals and cold-blooded creatures will have mouth brooding tendencies.
Yeah, I think once you put feathers or fur on an animal, it's not as you don't want those in your mouth.
Hairball, yeah. We're gonna head to Burlington to Hewitt's class. Come on in and take us away, you guys.
Hi.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
Is it true that some species of shark, like when they're when the babies are in the stomach of the mom shark, do they eat each other like they said?
I knew it was coming, and I love it. Daphne,
Yes.
you tell.
So there are sort of 3 different ways that sharks are going to have babies. One of them is going to be just laying eggs. And so we call these mermaid purses. They're kind of like an egg casing that we're going to see. So I've got some white spotted bamboo shark egg casings here. But some sharks will actually have the eggs stay inside their belly and they will hatch. Some of them are going to then have those babies once they've hatched. Some of them, those babies might stay in there for a while. And yes, they might eat each other to have just the 1 or 2 strongest survive. It's a little bit crazy.
It's a good research before the question, guys, in Miss Hewitt's class. We're going to head to Miss Teach's class. Welcome in with me. Unmute your mic. You're good to go.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Hi.
I have an important question. So, you know how I love jellyfish, but here's my question. How come jellyfish don't have skin or organs?
What's the deal, Daphne?
Great question. So they do have a bit of a skin on them, but they're not going to have maybe as many types of layers as we're going to. And they're not going to have necessarily organs like we do because they don't have a system that's specialized. So they have one hole for eating and pooping. I like to call it a mouth bum. It's just, does both. But for them, having a digestive system that's not so specialized like ours, where we have our stomach and our intestines and our colon and all these special bits, they don't need that. And that means it takes a lot less energy to maintain their body. So they can survive off of a lot less food and a lot less movement. They just don't get as much out of their food. So it's a bit of a different survival strategy, but it's worked for them a lot longer than our bodies have worked for us.
Way longer. And this is something I always like when we get questions like this because there's so many different ways of making a living on planet Earth. Bacteria are very different than plants, different than fungi. We have a whale versus a bird. I mean, there's so many alternate strategies and how you can survive in the world. Jellyfish are one of the most successful groups ever. They are basically one of the first animal groups ever to arrive on the scene. Way older than dinosaurs, older than sharks, older than some of the oldest other creatures on this planet. And so it works for them, as Daphne said. So
yeah, and I would say one of my favorite things about biology and just science in general is that there's no right way to do survival, right? It all depends on where you are and what you're doing. So all animals have some amazing ways to survive.
Very, very cool. I'm going to take a couple quick questions from YouTube, and then I'm going to do a bit of a rapid fire round with our live classes. We've got about 4 minutes to go, folks. Miss Straighton's class wants to know, what happens if animals eat plastic?
Great question. Well, the plastic isn't something that animals can digest. So unfortunately, it can actually fill up their belly and stay there. And so they think they're full, but they're actually not. So they're not getting all that nutrition that they need from their actual food. So it's not a good thing for those animals. It can make them sick. And a great way to do this, to help these animals, is actually to make sure that those big pieces of garbage aren't making their way down rivers, to the ocean and breaking into those smaller and smaller pieces that are hard to pick up. Yep. So there's a lot we can do right from our own community.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daphne. Miss Teacher's class wanted to know in the chat, do animals glow in the dark? And the answer is many. Bioluminescence is the term. Is there any example you can give for us about some glow in the dark creatures?
Oh, there are so many bioluminescent creatures. Many jellyfish, actually, when we were talking about jellyfish. There's also a lot of fluorescent animals that are kind of reflecting light as well. So there's many examples of this.
Very, very cool. I'm going to head to Stony Plain Central with a student right at the camera. Come on back in, Miss class.
What do turtles eat?
Good question.
Great question. Well, actually, man, jellyfish are just the star of the questions today. Some sea turtles will actually eat jellyfish. So they have special soft spikes in their throat to help keep the jellyfish down their throat while they spit up the water because they don't want to swallow a bunch of seawater. But other sea turtles are going to eat lots of seaweed and algae and things like that. So some of them are going to be more of a herbivore. Some of them are going to be more of a carnivore with those jellyfish.
We do a lot of programs with the Turtle Hospital in Marathon, Florida, and they mention every time that green sea turtles are not named because they're green. They're named green sea turtles because their fat is green, because they eat so many green plants that it makes their insides turn green from all the greenery that they eat. So very cool question, guys. Mr. M's class, I'm going to take 2 more questions just at random. Apologies to classes we can't get to. It's time flies and you're having fun. And I will note, if you've got more to follow up with ocean.org, you can also email some questions to me or Daphne. And we'll get you some answers after the broadcast. But Mr. M, come on back in, and Hewitt, we'll wrap up with you in a sec.
Can the animals that clone themselves make an army of themselves?
An army of clones.
That is a great question. And yeah, if a bunch of them do it, they can kind of start to create an army. I will say 2 examples really quickly, that jellyfish, because they're so great at surviving, they've been here for so long. There are, if there's less nutrients in the water and other animals are struggling to get enough food, jellyfish say, not a problem. I'm going to clone myself a whole bunch. It takes less food for me than mating with someone else. They can create a bunch of copies. And then those jellyfish start taking over. But there's also the example of sea anemones, their close relative, like we saw in the picture, and they will sometimes create so many copies, and you'll see them on a rock on the beach, and there's kind of like a whole bunch of really scraggly looking ones down a line in the center, and that's because it's 2 clone armies fighting each other for territory.
Scraggly remnants of clone armies is what we should have titled the program. It's the greatest lead that we could have gone here. Ms. Hewitt's class, they shared it in the chat, but I'll bring them in to say it in person.
Oh.
Hey.
Is it true that some jellyfish live forever?
So yes, technically they can clone themselves for a really, really long time because they can clone themselves, and that clone can clone themselves, and so on and so on. But also there is the immortal jellyfish, which has a way of sort of like skipping going backwards in its life cycle a bit, so that it kind of reverts to an earlier stage in its life cycle. So can they live forever? Probably not. They'll probably get eaten, but they have lots of ways to kind of skip ending life just naturally. So
it's like a reverse metamorphosis. It's odd. When we get into the world of oceans, we have some really weird, cool creatures out there. Daphne, this is so much fun. Thank you again so much for joining us, sharing all these amazing insights, and getting all our classes participating so well today. You guys rock all across Canada and the US. I am going to, again, highlight ocean.org if you want to find out more about the amazing work that OceanWise does. You can also check out our YouTube channel. Type in OceanWise or Daphne, and you'll see like 50 programs that she's done with us over the last few years. There's so much to discover there. But what we do to end every broadcast, as you well know, and as our students should know by now, I'm going to bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. Miss Teason's class, Stony Plain Central, Mr. M, Mr. Wonderful.